So the AirPods Pro 3 got a new firmware dubbed 8B40, which replaces 8B39. Now, as usual, Apple gives no indication whether it's changed anything about its performance, such as its sound, its noise cancelling, mic pickup, and transparency. Well, except for the usual bug fixes and improvements. So in this video, we're gonna find out if there are any inadvertent changes made to the AirPods Pro 3's performance through this firmware update. So buckle up, and if you want to keep track with me if future firmware updates to the AirPods Pro 3 affects anything positive or otherwise, get subscribed and tap the bell button to stay notified. In terms of microphone quality, on iOS devices with voice isolation mode, the mic pickup of the AirPods Pro 3 seems to be comparable to that of the older firmware, except that noise reduction seems to be heavier compared to before. So in noisy conditions, my own voice seems a little more chopped up. On Android devices, again, it seems comparable to the previous firmware in quiet conditions. My voice came through pretty clean and clear, but in noisy conditions, voice filtering seems to be a lot more aggressive than before this firmware update. This was tested in both quiet and noisy conditions using really loud cafe noise and wind noise from this fan. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 with voice isolation mode turned on iOS, running firmware 8B40. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B39 on an iOS device with voice isolation mode turned on. I'm now making a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 with voice isolation mode turned on iOS running firmware 8B40. The quick bounce box jumps over the lazy dog. Now we get a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B39 in the iOS device with voice isolation mode turned on. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 on an Android device running firmware 8B40. I'm now making a phone call in a quiet place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B39 on an Android device. I'm now making a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 on an Android device running firmware 8B40. The quick brown box jumps over the lazy dog. I'm now making a phone call in a noisy and windy place using the AirPods Pro 3 running firmware 8B39 on an Android device. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. In terms of noise cancelling, frequency sweeps show that now it seems to cancel a little bit more in the lower frequencies below 400 Hz, and this might reduce rumbling noises from traffic a bit more compared to before the update. Now, in the upper mid-range, it seems to have gone back to the way it was on the much older firmware, 8B30, the one before 8B39, which cuts a bit less of voices and other higher-pitched noises. Now, that being said, it's definitely an improvement at cutting lower frequency noise, which could be better on a plane flight. Listen to the samples. Now, if you want to compare their active noise cancelling and call quality to other products, for just $1 per month or more, you can access My Secret Weapon, my personal database, which lets you compare their samples A to B directly. Hundreds of people have joined up because this saves you so much time. being able to just cut through all the marketing and compare the products yourself without visiting a store. Most stores don't even let you try the products due to hygiene reasons. So join now on YouTube or Patreon through the links below. Now, I have to say that its transparency mode on firmware 8B40 is pretty similar to how it was on 8B39, except for this small boosting above 1.6 kHz, which should make transparency feel a bit crisper compared to before the update. But in day-to-day usage, there's not a lot of difference between how its transparency was compared to 8B39, which was pretty awesome to begin with. Now, for sound quality, the new firmware 8B40 seems to have made the AirPods Pro 3 sound more V-shaped, like there's a boosting of the sub-bass frequencies, about 4 decibels more pulling back in the lower mids, and some boosting in the upper mids above 1.8 kHz. This should lead to a more vibrant, thumpy signature without the bass leaking over into the mids, which can make the mids or the vocals sound more muddy, more boomy. Airiness could also have been improved, although in my A to B testing, I couldn't tell that much of a difference in that area in terms of the airiness in the soundstage. But listen to the following samples recorded before and after the update, and let me know what you think in the comments.
That you're my number one priority. Just keep giving me all your love. Don't stop giving me all your love. I'm sitting in the palm of your hand. Your wish is my command. Just keep giving me all your love. Yes, it took a real man to bring it out of me. Gave me good love, baby, and now I see what a big dog needs. I think it's funny how one of his submissive now. What a big dog.
To compare their sound quality to other headphones and earbuds, go to loud&wireless.com/sound samples. So that's how the AirPods Pro 3 on firmware 8B40 compares to 8B39. Let me know guys in the comments if you've also spotted any difference not mentioned in this video. And as I said, get subscribed if you want to keep track of these changes with me, and tap the bell button to stay notified. And by the way, click here to learn which earbuds have the best mic pickup and noise cancelling performance.